Hi, and welcome to this set of videos to help you navigate managing difficult conversations. You'll remember that we had a recent session where we specifically talked about managing those difficult conversations. We explored what happens when tension rises, when the stakes are high, when the emotions run strong, and when opinions differ. In those moments, how you show up as a communicator is what really matters. And if you remember, we talked about that challenging conversation we used as a role play between Mark and Emma, where one was looking for funding for a new project and the other one was the newly appointed CFO who wanted to save money for the company. So in this follow-up series, we're going to talk about some of the things that some of the frameworks that we discussed to help you manage your difficult conversations. One of the key frameworks we talked about was the 7 principles of emotionally intelligent negotiation. And these principles, they're not just tactics to win arguments, they're anchors to help you stay calm, strategic, and human, especially when the conversations get really tough. So let's walk through them. The first one is your counterpart is not your enemy. If you remember in Emma's and Mark's cases, both of them wanted the actual best for the business. But they were going at loggerheads with each other. They were battling each other. When we frame this as a battle against each other, it turns out to be a threatening, conflictive style conversation, and all collaboration disappears. The shift is to move from me versus you to me and you versus the issue. The second principle we talked about was seek to understand, not to convince. And you remember we talked about the FOE model, the FOE model, and this is where you have the facts, the opinions, and the emotions. Great communicators, great negotiators listen to all of these 3 layers, and they're curious about really understanding, because they know that building arguments and building cases to win your arguments might work in the short term, but not in the long term. So by remaining curious about our counterpart, we then start to understand, not to convince. The third principle is create value before capturing value. Now, before asking for what you need, ask for how you can contribute. When the people feel heard and valued, then they're far more likely to engage. And that's where the real progress starts. So in your teams, start trying to understand how, before you go in and advocate for exactly what it is that you want, maybe try and find out what the other party wants. And not just what the other party wants, what's the context in which they're looking for these specific ideas. Maybe there's more to it than meets the eye. The fourth principle is review the emotional state of the negotiators. If you remember in our role play, Emma showed up being really defensive and Mark was frustrated, and neither of them really understood each other. But these emotions, this dynamic actually drove the conversation more than the actual facts. So emotional awareness isn't soft, it's smart. The fifth is never become over-invested in a specific outcome. If you're only listening to win a point, you'll miss what really is going on. So always try and keep the bigger picture in mind, stay flexible and not fixed. Number 6, always leave your counterpart better than you found them. You remember we talked about this in depth. Even when you disagree, someone maybe feels like they are talking to somebody who's firm and fair, and you live to fight another day, you live to have another discussion. So it's important that always leave your counterpart feeling better than you found them, even if you do not agree. Kindness is memorable, and also so is clarity. And number 7, well, once you understand the principles number 1 to 6, then you suddenly see people who get collaboration out of nowhere. People who, for some reason, things seem so easy for them. And this isn't just in formal settings. In every meeting or review, they are quickly able to build rapport and build clarity, trust, and alignment. And that's because principle number 7 is opportunities for negotiation and collaboration exist everywhere. So, of these 7, which one do you already practice well? And which one do you think could shift your next difficult conversation? Remember, you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be intentional. And these principles are tools to help you communicate with more empathy, confidence and clarity, especially when it counts, when you're under pressure. Next up, we'll explore one of the most powerful tools to shift a stuck conversation. And this is what we call reframing under pressure. See you in the next video.